Money shapes the world in quiet ways and loud ways. It lives inside every choice that people make each day. It is present when a family buys bread and when a nation builds roads and schools. Yet money is only as strong as the trust that people place inside it. When that trust is shaken, the entire system begins to change. When trust collapses, the money collapses with it. The fall of money is not a single event. It is a journey made of many steps, each connected to the next. The failure of money usually begins long before anyone notices. At first the system appears stable. Markets move. People work. Banks operate normally. The signs are small and silent like cracks inside a wall. The government may spend slightly more than it earns. A conflict may break out in a distant region. A few industries may slow down. These seem like ordinary problems, but together they create pressure on the currency. Pressure builds slowly. When a country spends far more than its income, the gap must be filled. Some governments borrow from foreign lenders. Others print more currency. At first the printing looks harmless. People receive wages. The economy appears active. But something unseen begins to change. The value of each unit of money becomes thinner. The same note that bought a basket of goods last year now buys slightly less. Most people do not pay attention to these early signals. They assume the world is normal because daily life seems unchanged. But the truth is that money begins to weaken long before society feels the pain. The weakening usually takes root in the deeper structures of an economy. A country may lose productivity. The quality of institutions may decline. Corruption may spread inside government offices or private companies. Regulations may become inconsistent or unclear. When these problems increase, they weaken the ability of a nation to support a strong currency. During this stage, public leaders often deny that any problem exists. They reassure citizens that everything is under control. They speak of growth and promise better days. Some leaders believe their own words. Others hide the truth because they fear public reaction. This denial is dangerous because it delays the needed reforms. While leaders speak softly, the currency continues to lose strength quietly. Over time, the problem becomes visible. Prices begin to rise not by small steps but by noticeable jumps. Bread, milk, vegetables, fuel, electricity, and rent increase at a pace that alarms families. People talk about the rising cost of living at dinner tables and in markets. These conversations reveal the growing anxiety that spreads through the society. Savings lose purchasing power. A worker who spent many years saving for a home may discover the savings are now worth much less. These changes affect not only households but also businesses. A business cannot plan the future when prices change unexpectedly. It must raise prices more often. It must reconsider investment plans. It may reduce staff to survive. These actions create a chain reaction. When businesses struggle, workers earn less. When workers earn less, they buy less. When they buy less, businesses decline even more. The weakening of money begins to weaken the entire economy. At this stage, fear becomes a powerful force. Fear is more destructive than any economic mistake. When people fear tomorrow, they change their behavior today. They buy goods before the price rises again. They store food and fuel. They purchase items that hold value such as gold, metal, or durable equipment. Some buy land because land maintains worth even when money does not. Once fear spreads, the value of money falls faster because the demand for goods increases while trust in currency fades. In some countries, this fear reaches extreme levels. A bag of rice can double in price within a week. A bus ticket may need more money by the afternoon. A store may receive goods in the morning and fail to afford new goods by evening because prices change too fast. People begin to carry large amounts of notes just to purchase basic items. These scenes have repeated in many nations throughout history. They show how fragile money can be when mismanagement and fear combine. When this point is reached, the banks face severe pressure. People rush to withdraw their savings. They no longer trust the stability of the financial system. Banks typically hold only a small fraction of deposits in physical form. The rest is invested or used to support loans. When too many depositors arrive at once, the bank cannot give them all their money. Even a well-managed bank can fail if panic is strong enough. This situation is called a bank run, and it is a powerful symbol of collapsing confidence. Governments attempt many strategies to stop the crisis. Some freeze prices. Some limit withdrawals. Some introduce new rules without fully explaining them. Some accuse invisible enemies or vague forces to distract the public. But none of these measures solve the root problem. The root problem is trust. Trust that the leadership knows what it is doing. Trust that the currency has value. Trust that future prices will not spin out of control. To restore trust, a government must show discipline. It must control spending. It must remove corruption. It must simplify the financial system. It must communicate clearly and honestly. These steps are often painful because they require structural change. A nation cannot revive a dying currency with shortcuts. Only sincere effort and consistent policy can bring stability back. But while governments debate and struggle, real people face real pain. The collapse of money touches every household. A parent wonders how to feed children when groceries cost twice what they once did. A student cannot afford books or transportation. Retired citizens who saved for decades find that their pensions are almost worthless. Professionals lose motivation because wages cannot keep up with prices. Vendors in markets must rewrite prices several times a day. These human stories show that a money crisis is not only an economic event. It is a social and emotional event. It shapes how people look at each other. It shapes how they see the future. When money fails, trust between individuals fades as well. People become more protective. Cooperation becomes harder. Some attempt to exploit the situation for gain. These actions deepen social tension and weaken community ties. Yet crises sometimes reveal the best parts of society. Some people help neighbors by sharing food or resources. Communities organize support groups. Volunteers assist the most vulnerable. Religious and civic organizations play a greater role. These acts of kindness remind people that wealth is not only measured in currency but in compassion and cooperation. As the crisis continues, some people begin to rely on foreign money. They may trade with stronger currencies from other nations. Some may trade with digital forms of value. Others may store physical goods as a form of wealth. These behaviors create a parallel economy. The official currency becomes used less often because it cannot hold value. Once a large number of people begin using alternatives, the government loses another layer of control. The failure of a currency forces individuals to rethink everything. They think differently about work. They focus on skills that remain useful even in unstable times. They reconsider the meaning of saving. Instead of keeping money in banks, they may keep goods that last. They may invest in tools that generate income. They may learn crafts or trades. In this way, people adapt to survival. A collapsing currency also influences relationships between different parts of society. Tension rises between rural and urban communities. Tension rises between workers and employers. Tension rises between citizens and leadership. These tensions can lead to protests, strikes, and sometimes conflict. When money fails long enough, the political structure may also come under pressure. Leaders may lose authority. New leaders may rise, promising order and reform. The psychological impact of money failure is deep and long-lasting. It creates memory scars. Children who grow up in a money crisis learn to be cautious with every expense even as adults. They often avoid unnecessary spending and prefer practical choices. Adults who lived through the crisis may develop mistrust toward financial institutions. These attitudes can continue for generations and influence how a nation behaves economically long after the crisis is over. But money failure is not the end of a nation. It is a test. Societies can rebuild. After a collapse, new policies may be introduced. New currencies may be launched. Banks may be restructured. Foreign partners may assist. Confidence may slowly return. But the road to recovery is long. It requires patience from citizens and responsibility from leaders. Recovery begins when people notice that prices stop rising rapidly. They begin to see predictability. They notice that their wages are enough to cover basic needs without dramatic changes each week. They feel less fear about tomorrow. Businesses begin to plan again. Banks regain strength. Slowly the society moves back toward normal economic behavior. Once stability is restored, the lessons of the crisis remain important. People understand that money is not guaranteed. They know that leadership must be watched carefully. They understand that overspending eventually brings consequences. They appreciate the value of saving and preparation. These lessons strengthen the society for future challenges. Money failure also teaches humility. It shows that the systems humans build can break. It shows that no nation is too powerful to face financial trouble if it ignores its responsibilities. It reminds leaders that authority must be used wisely. It reminds citizens that trust is earned through honesty. The deeper lesson is that money depends more on human behavior than on paper or metal. It depends on discipline, restraint, and truth. When these values weaken, the currency weakens. When these values strengthen, the currency recovers. The extended story of money failure continues into the everyday experience of people trying to navigate uncertainty. A worker tries to find multiple sources of income because one job alone cannot protect the family. A small shop sells items in smaller portions so that customers can still afford them. Teachers explain to students how prices move and what inflation means. Families gather to discuss budgets more often. These changes shape a culture that becomes more vigilant about financial reality. As the crisis deepens in some places, entire industries transform. Imported goods become too expensive, so local production increases. This can create new opportunities for domestic businesses. Farmers may find that their produce becomes more valuable. Small manufacturers may revive older methods. These shifts show that even within difficulty there can be seeds of renewal. International relations also play a role in money failure. A country facing collapse may seek agreements with other nations. Loans may be offered, but often with strict conditions. These conditions may force reforms that local leaders previously avoided. While painful, these reforms can help rebuild long-term stability. Sometimes international support is rejected due to pride or politics. This rejection may make the crisis worse. The balance between independence and cooperation becomes an important question. During a long crisis, intellectual debates rise. Economists argue about the causes. Some blame overspending. Some blame global markets. Some blame corruption. Some blame the banking system. These debates influence future policy, but they rarely comfort the people who suffer in daily life. For ordinary citizens, the immediate concern is survival. They need stability more than theories. As months or years pass, the crisis becomes a defining moment in the history of the nation. It becomes part of collective memory. Elderly people will tell stories to younger generations. They will describe long lines outside bakeries. They will describe carrying large bags of currency to buy simple goods. They will describe the fear of waking up to new prices. These stories serve as warnings for the future. Finally, the crisis reaches a turning point. The nation makes a decision. Either it continues down the path of decline or it chooses reform. The choice of reform leads to a slow but steady recovery. The choice of denial leads to continued decay. History shows that nations which choose reform eventually restore their currency, though the process may take time. When recovery arrives, it brings relief. Markets stabilize. Families regain confidence. Businesses find rhythm again. The currency becomes reliable. People begin to rebuild savings. The society moves from fear to hope. Leaders who guide the recovery earn respect. Citizens who endured hardship feel stronger and wiser. In the end, the long story of money failure and recovery is a story about people. It is about their hopes and fears. It is about trust and responsibility. It is about the invisible thread that connects individuals to each other through the currency they use. When that thread breaks, the pain is great. When it is repaired, the society emerges with new understanding. Money can fail, but nations can learn. Money can collapse, but communities can rise again with greater unity. Every failure carries a lesson, and every lesson can lead to a stronger future. The value of a currency reflects the values of the people who use it. If those values remain strong, then even after a collapse, the nation can rebuild a stable and honest financial system.